Welcome back to another episode of AutoKnerd, where we explore how genuine kindness and empathy can transform the sales process and lead to stronger relationships, happier customers, and greater success. I'm your host, Andrew Sardone, sales trainer, advocate for putting humanity back into sales, because when you look at it right now, we try to find the fastest ways to close these things down, and we're not making the money that we so deserve. So let's put humanity back on into the sales process. So today we're going to be diving into a topic that is driving a major shift in the automotive industry. Now, it's not a new topic by any stretch of the imagination. This particular topic you have heard many, many, many times over. And because of this, we really need to go ahead and dive deep on in it. Now, there was a bit of shakeup this past week when the inauguration happened and President Trump took office, and it affects all of us. So I'm not going to get partisan or anything like that in here, but the reality is that the EV landscape is kind of changing. And what I mean is that and I listened to another podcast that does talk about EVs an awful lot, and EV News Daily, dude's super awesome, by the way. Go on over and join his podcast. But here, and also click follow on mine, please. I try as hard as I can to give you the greatest information that I can conjure up. But when it comes down to it, he said one day on his podcast that the cloth's been cut, the factories were built, these things are happening. And it really doesn't matter when it came down to that $7,500 incentive, and at a stroke of a pen, President Trump got rid of it. It doesn't matter, right? And so with the hybrid vehicles in this episode, we're going to be breaking down everything that you need to know about selling these things, right? Because the industry itself is about to see a tidal wave of customers going ahead and going, well, when it comes to EV, I would never drive an EV. But hey, you know what? Hybrid, I'm totally in on. 12 short years ago, that wasn't the case. That same individual would look at you and go, I would never drive a hybrid. And now you take a look at the vast majority of pickup trucks out there, and they're all going hybrid. The reason is that it just makes sense. So they're not just a trend, right? They're a movement, one that is reshaping how customers view efficiency, stability, and the value of their vehicle purchases. But here's the big question. Are you, as a sales consultant, prepared to meet the evolving expectations and speak directly to what motivates today's buyers? So let's dive in and explore how you can position yourself as an expert to your customers. And not just not just there to sell a car, right? But there to help them make a smarter, wiser purchase decision. So, without further ado, let's jump in. All right. So as I mentioned just a little bit ago, is that at a stroke of a pen, everything changed, right? And we're not feeling it yet, but you are going to feel it fairly soon. The idea that, well, we're going to go ahead and stay on fossil fuel, cool, I guess, but you're not really setting a great stage for the future. At least that's my opinion. Now, as far as hybrid vehicles, we're going to address concerns in this particular episode concerning things like fuel economy, affordability, environmental concerns, right? Practically no range anxiety that goes along with these things. In addition to that, there are some seriously popular models out there that your customers are kind of clamoring to get. And if they don't know what's there, it is our responsibility to show it to them. Because keep in mind, by going ahead and adding kindness into this, and we talked about kindness in the last episode, kindness and caring, and I threw a little bit about the topic of love in there, because love is a very big thing that we bring up. Now, for anybody that is listening to this podcast the first time going, this dude's talking about kindness, caring, love, and not closing deals. Well, here's the thing. Coffee's not for closers. Coffee is for, or at least the coffee pot at the dealership. We'll call that for closers, because the people that are actually making the money are walking on the street to Starbucks or wherever else to buy quality coffee, right? Not to say that many dealerships out there don't have quality coffee, but I've been to hundreds of them over my tenure. And quite honestly, y'all got to learn to wash your coffee pot. And it's not a joke. It's gross. But here's the thing. Dealership coffee is dealership coffee. It's a good, crappy cup of coffee wherever you may be, but I don't want to get too far off onto dealership coffee here. So let's dive on into this topic. Now, hybrid vehicles have been gaining in popularity over the past 20 years, primarily because the idea of reducing parasitic losses And boosting fuel efficiency is a huge thing. So, for example, let's say you have your family, let's say they're all a bunch of teenagers right now, they're older in their life, and you decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and bag everybody on in, drop them all off at school, pick them all up later in the day, that kind of thing, right? 3 kids, 2 adults, let's just say. Everybody's about 125 to 200 pounds. They might be getting in the vehicle. So you pack your vehicle on in with your kids, all their stuff, and the family dog, who knows, maybe you just jumped in the car and you're like, yeah, whatever, we'll just bring Bowser along with us. And so you're driving, you're telling your car via the throttle, I want you to go this speed. Your car is going, okay, I can go that speed, but it's going to cost you. And we really don't ever think about that. It's going to cost you a thing. Well, you see, with hybrids, the whole point is to add in that electric motor to take that stress away from the gas engine, right? So one analogy that I use an awful lot is that it's like you dedicated to that you are going to run a mile today. And so you go ahead, you get your tribe around you at the dealership, and you're all sitting there and going, and everybody's going, hey, okay, so you're going to run that mile, right? You're going to run that mile. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. So you go ahead, you eat your Wheaties that morning, you put your shoes on, and you start running at lunchtime, tie and all, or maybe just, slacks and all. And so as you're running, a sales consultant that you don't necessarily love, but everybody thinks that they're funny. We all laugh at their terrible jokes because it's easier to laugh at the guy than listen to him complain all day. So you go ahead and you pass him, and as you're running, you're about a third of the mile in, and this dude jumps out of the bushes and puts a 50-pound bag of bricks on your back. Now, if you ate enough fuel to get to that end line, that 1 mile line, you can't achieve that now. The reason is that you just weigh more. Your car deals with this every single day, and we ask more and more and more of the vehicle. And then the day rolls around. Now the vehicle is going, well, you put 600 miles of fuel in me, and now you got about 300 out of it. Reason is that your regular old gas vehicle, the more weight that you add, the less distance it can go. Now, you're jogging along, you got this 50-pound bag of bricks on your back, and a genuine friend sees this happen. They come up behind you, they're in super great shape, they take their hands, they jam them in your armpits, they lift up this backpack and some of your weight at the same time. When they do this, it now goes ahead and reduces your parasitic losses. So that food that you are burning up to hit that 1 mile mark, well, right now you can go ahead and exceed 1 mile if your buddy's willing to go further than that. So with all of this information, hybrids are that stepping stone to EV. Now, I don't really want to put it out there like, well, we're rushing the EV thing. In a way, we kind of are. Now, we've dealt with the past 120, 180 years, somewhere in that wheelhouse of gasoline engines, right from the development of the first gasoline engines with Atkinson and Otto and all those guys, moving right on into modern day. The gasoline engine really has not seen that many changes. I mean, just recently I saw a 6-stroke engine from Porsche, and my jaw hit the floor. Scavenger valves and everything inside of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the future. And then I'm like, wait, no, it's not. It's still gas, but it is super cool. Thing is that the world is changing. And because of this, we're looking at different designs. We're looking at different ways of making the gasoline engine, I guess, not necessarily more profitable, but more profitable to the individual that is driving it. So with this, hybrids combine both gasoline with an electric motor, as we all know, to offer significantly better fuel economy than traditional gas-powered engines in most cases. For example, Toyota Prius, 50 to 58 miles to the gallon. You're taking a look at, for example, Kia Niro hybrid. It's very similar wheelhouse. So this is a considerable improvement over your traditional car where you're looking, 20 to 35 miles of the gallon, and that's about it. So consumers right now are increasingly looking at ways to save money on fuel due to rising gas prices and rising everything else. I mean, our dollar definitely doesn't stretch as far as it did before. So with these, hybrids typically are more affordable, than fully electric vehicles. So you can save a little bit of coin because you don't have to buy that huge battery that's inside of it. But The downside is that you're still running on gas, right? So with that, it's for some people it's downside, some people it's not. I talked to one woman today in one of my sessions, and she goes, "Well, I'm not an electric person," and I said, "That's fine. I'm not asking you to be an electric person. I'm just asking you to understand it so you can offer your customer a great time buying it." She said, "Oh yeah, I can absolutely do that, but it's just not for me." So what do you drive? And she goes, "Hybrid." I said, "Oh." I said, "What kind of hybrid?" And she goes, "Plug-in hybrid." And I said, "Do you ever drive it on electric?" She goes, "All the time." I said, "So, but an EV is not for you." And she goes, "No, the cost." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "I just don't drive enough." And that makes a lot of sense. EVs are, if you really want to offset that cost, you got to get a vehicle, or you have to be in a position where you're putting on a lot of miles, right? So that's what that's what makes EVs affordable, is all the mileage. But when it comes to around town type stuff, plug-in hybrids, awesome, because they can take advantage of the electric vehicle capabilities. And if you go ahead and you run out of juice, then it just switches over to gasoline and no range anxiety. So that's pretty cool. But with these, hybrids offer a balance of reduced fuel costs and also an affordable price tag. So that's kind of the point here, where as I said before, EVs, they can get a little pricey. Now, one example of this is when we take a look at, for example, Honda Insight provides great value, right, for a compact sedan. Very impressive fuel efficiency of up to nearly 55 to 60 miles of the gallon. That's incredible. But you're looking at a lightweight car, fairly small, things of that nature. So what does it mean on the other side of things? Well, you can have vehicles like Toyota Tundra out there right now. I have one, my wife has one, and it's not meant for fuel economy. It's meant for using that electric motor for just absolutely insane power, right? Ford's doing that as well in one of their vehicles. And when you take a look at, I think at Ram's doing crazy stuff when it comes to adding an electrified content to their trucks. So again, world's going to change because electric motors don't just provide better fuel economy. Now that's going to be one of the primary reasons that people buy them. But when you look in the area of towing, electric motors can actually uplift or out-tow your average V8 simply because electric motors can generate far more torque at a lower RPM. Now, with this, though, you do have those environmental concerns. So for all of those people that are along the line of, well, when it comes to the environment, of course I care about it. Who doesn't care about the environment? Well, there are people out there that will genuinely tell you, hey, what, I don't care. I just want to live my life and, get done with this thing. And I get it. All right. Life's not easy sometimes. But we do need to be good stewards of this planet. I don't care who you are, what position you hold, at what company that you might be at, or what political angle you're trying to tackle in life. The environment's kind of an important thing. I mean, we walk outside, we breathe the air, we look at the sky, and, my wife's been on a kind of a matrix kick lately, and every time I walk by, I look at that thing and I'm like, what if that's actually how things end up? What if that's how it is now? Oh my gosh, the matrix, total mind screw. But the thing is that these environmental concerns are a real deal. Right now, we can go ahead and say all day long, well, when it comes down to NOAA and what they're saying about climate, when it comes down to what the EU said, you know what? Who cares? The thing is that we all breathe, we all drink water, and we got to make sure that stuff's clean. Don't care who you are, is what it is, right? So that awareness that some people have when it does come to things like climate change, consumers are seeking ways to reduce their own personal carbon footprint to just do their part. And really, it's not that hard to do. Just find something that you love that is going to give you the ability to have some good hop off the line. If, let's say, power performance is your thing, and electric motors give you that capability. And with hybrids, the newer hybrids that are coming out, those manufacturers are leveraging it, which is awesome. But hybrids do have lower emissions, in just typically in general, compared to cars that are not hybrid. In addition to that, while they're not as green as full EVs, they do have a significant impact in fuel efficiency, which means that, just some quick little, like a very vague math. If, let's say, we have a car that gets 30 miles to the gallon, 4-cylinder, and then we make it the same engine hybridized, and now it gets 60, well, you've just reduced your emissions by half, right? And so by going ahead and reducing your emissions by half, now you can, I guess, feel a little bit better, right? But if you think about everybody that is out there that has done this, that's made this switch, if everybody does make the switch, then all of a sudden you're going to notice some pretty quick impacts. So, for example, a few things out there. St. Louis, way back in the day, I think in the 50s, they built the Joule box as a reply to the massive amount of smog that they had. emissions came through, things changed, all of a sudden air cleaned up. When you take a look at the Hollywood Bowl sign, all right, for years and years and years, you couldn't even see that thing. And here comes some of the most the strongest rules and laws when it did come down to manufacturing low emission vehicles for the state of California, that now you can actually see the sign on a sunny day, which was not the case. So for anybody that's like, well, when we deal with hybrids and you deal with EVs, we're actually polluting the earth because we're digging this stuff up, dude. Most of it is being recycled when it comes down to hybrid. When it comes on the EV, yeah, a lot of stuff still needs to be dug up, but we're getting to a point here where that argument, well, first off, it's lame, get a new one. Secondly, when you start driving an electric vehicle or a hybrid, your emissions is either chopped in half or even lower. And at the same time, that gas car just keeps polluting along. I guess that's one of those arguments that people, I guess, forget, is that you still got to fill the thing up. It still has emissions coming out the back. And your average gas vehicle has a 24 to 25% lack of efficiency, meaning that when if gas is $4 a gallon again, which it will be, I don't care. We could drill all day long, but big oil is still going to make their cut. So when it gets back up to $4 a gallon, $1 out of every gallon that you put in your average car just goes out the back. I mean, it's sad, but that's how far we've come with technology. I mean, when you think about like 6 miles of the gallon back in the day to 45, 60 now, that's awesome, right? So they are coming along, but really we're sitting here at the apex, probably for about the next 4 years, where people are going to start getting used to hybrid. We're going to turn the page, and all of a sudden we'll be over to electric. But with this electric thing, one of the biggest arguments, or hybrid thing, one of the biggest arguments that just becomes eviscerated, which I can't wait to stop hearing, is, well, what about range anxiety? Well, first off, if you have an EV, just plug the darn thing in wherever you are and charge it up, right? I mean, range anxiety is just a lame argument. But with these, hybrids address this concern of range anxiety. And they address this by the fact that, well, they still have gas in them. So you can go ahead, you get to put a couple gallons of gas in it, and next thing you know, you can get 120 miles off of 2 gallons, and I think that's still pretty awesome. But an example of this, for example, is Ford F-150 hybrid, right? This is a vehicle that powers itself off a traditional gas engine, has that added benefit of getting that assist from that electric, right? So we're going from a vehicle that gets, let's say 18 miles of the gallon, and now it's getting somewhere in the upper 20s. That's a big deal, right? And especially if you're somebody that is just so used to pulling up to that filler pump, putting $120 into the gas tank of your F-150 and going, wow, man, I can't wait to be back here in the next 3 days, right? That's just not cool. So by leveraging the conversation with customers and asking those questions up front, we can then start to look at the customer and go, hey, from what you've told me, fuel is kind of a burden on you, isn't it? Why? Yeah, it is. I'm carting these 3 kids around all over, this green earth, and just I'm hemorrhaging cash. Well, what if I told you that for the amount of cash that you spend on fuel, if we remove 50% of it, that would actually take care of maybe your car payment, maybe the whole darn thing, and we can reduce your fuel payment on your vehicle by 50% or more. Does that sound fair? Yeah, I'm all ears. You see, we got to sell that as a caring pitch, right? We can't just sell it as, well, how about hybrid? Most people are going to look at you and go, what the hell would I want a hybrid? No, I don't want a hybrid. I just want my truck. And so with this, we do need to do a little bit of an upsell. But the average person today, if you mention to them, hey, I'm going to save you a couple bucks. You cool with that? Yeah, then usually they'll stop and go, okay, I'm in. But when we look at models like, for example, the Toyota RAV4 hybrid, the Honda CR-V hybrid, the Ford F-150 hybrid, the Kia Niro, what else? You got the Sorento out there. Hyundai's got a whole list of them. Toyota, almost everything at Toyota right now has gone hybrid, and their system's super cool. Maybe I'll do an episode on Toyota hybrid systems. They're not just there for fuel efficiency. They're also there for power. They're there for speed. I mean, they're having all sorts of fun with these things over there. But with these, reliability has a big uptick as well, because you have this electric motor now that provides additional driving help to the gas engine. And so the gas engine actually does less work because of the electric motor. So that is super cool. But these models have a combination of performance, value, sustainability, right? They make them super attractive to families and eco-conscious buyers. And with that, now people are starting to realize that, well, what if I put this into like my work? Right now, we can reduce our financial load with that vehicle if we use it for work purposes, right? So, when we look at these things, they're becoming more rugged, they're becoming more durable. They're not just Priuses and Insights of the world anymore. Manufacturers are going ahead and they're looking at these going, the average person wants more fuel efficiency, and the VA ain't going to do it. Nobody wants people really don't want 4-cylinder turbos in everything because most people don't understand them. And I mean, you mentioned turbo to somebody that's over 45, 50 years old, and usually they'll look at you and go, well, it's going to be faster and it's going to have more problems. Not anymore. That's not necessarily the case. Lots changed in that area, but the benefits of this technology are incredible, right? So let's talk about understanding these buyer motivators. The first one is going to be practical concerns, right? Customers are looking for cars that fit their daily lives and meet practical needs, right? Running their kids around town, making sure that they can be super happy with the performance of these, and also being able to just generally have fun in them, which was one of those things that held the hybrid back for so long. Is and I don't mean anything against Toyota, but every time I got in a Prius, it didn't really make me go, "Ooh, yay, let me go ahead and drive this quickly." It was more or less, I get in the vehicle and now I know I'm going to, not have to hemorrhage my bank account filling the thing up. So I guess that was kind of cool. Helps you save up for a sports car. But the fuel savings is usually the top priority in many of these buyers. So when they look at these vehicles and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you got that Ford F-150, you got this thing over here, right? You got the for example, Kia's MPV, the Carnival." Being hybrid can give a huge boost to the family, right? And so when it comes down to some of these questions, right, with fuel savings, we have to ask questions to the customer like, "Hey, how many miles do you drive a week?" And when they tell us how many miles they drive, establish a threshold of, "Hey, this sounds like an acceptable amount of range for that particular individual." Right. And so if all of a sudden the customers are like, "Well, when it comes down to fuel efficiency, I need to make sure that I'm just simply doing better." Well, if that's the case and the customer's saying, "Hey, I drive like, 500 miles a week." Well, with the exception of going EV, I would highly suggest a hybrid, and not even a PHEV, right? PHEVs are awesome for around town. They become incredibly impractical for highway usage unless you're going ahead and you're getting a Kia Hyundai, which can go about like 80 miles an hour just on electric, which it's very interesting. I mean, their system over there is just mind-bogglingly wild. But the other questions that we can ask them: are you concerned with how much you're spending on fuel every single month? If they look at you and go, "No," you may want to go ahead and just ask them if they can make a couple of your car payments as well, because none of us out here really have enough money to simply be continuing to invest in our vehicle's utility bill if we don't have to. Let's find ways to reduce that and pass it on to the customer, right? It's good because customers are seeking ways to cut these fuel costs, improve fuel efficiency, and making more hybrids actually kind of seems like the perfect solution for the average person that's out there. Now, when you have these environmentally conscious folks, well, the game doesn't necessarily change. The conversation is still very similar, right? So we're going to ask the customer maybe questions that are along the line of, "Hey, how important is sustainability and reducing your environmental impact to you?" And all of a sudden, you'll find a lot of people that'll go, "Oh, it's very important," right? And all you got to do is ask. That's it. You just need to ask them. And as soon as you do, you're going to figure out what kind of person you're talking to. And the customer's going to go, "Oh, man, you know what? You're right on the same page as me. You care as well." Because remember, building trust isn't about you speaking. It's about getting them to talk about things that they actually do care about. If you are not somebody that is environmentally conscious, but you're asking the right questions, all of a sudden the customer thinks that you are on their page. And that's just fine, right? Ride that wave with them. Make them super excited about what they're doing, right? Because increasing that awareness to the customer and letting them know that, hey, you know what? If climate change is important to you right now, climate change is important to me. But when we look at the environmental side of things, our questions will change slightly, but the conversation is essentially the same. How important is sustainability in reducing your environmental impact? The customer's going to look at you and go, it's huge. right? If it comes down to the fact that money on the fuel efficiency side really isn't that big of a deal, a lot of people are going out of their way, giving a good college try to do their part. So with this, by going ahead and allowing people to know, hey, you know what, if you go ahead and get in something like your hybrid here or a fully electric, you're instantly going to be reducing your own personal carbon footprint. Now, for any of you out there that go, well, what about the manufacturing of the vehicle? Hey, listen, I get it, hater. Over time, the manufacturing process is becoming more efficient, and it is absolutely something manufacturers are looking into. Heck, if it wasn't environmentally sustainable for a hybrid or an EV, there are companies out there, take Subaru, for example, they pride themselves in the fact that they are driving themselves faster than anybody else to a zero carbon footprint. Well, with that, if hybrids didn't work and EVs didn't work, Subaru wouldn't be making one. And that tells me a lot right there, right? But hybrids offer a compromise between this conventional engine and this convenience factor that EVs tend to bring to the table. And this is really where PHEVs shine, right? Plug-in hybrid electrics. You unplug your vehicle first thing in the morning, you start driving, and it goes 100%. Right, electric for about 30-ish miles, and that 100% electric for about 36 miles or 30-ish miles. Or in some, I think there's one right now that goes almost 80. I think it's over a VW. It gives you the ability to unplug your car and just ride on electric. And then after that, range anxiety is gone. So for some people, if environmental consciousness is their concern, might be well worth mentioning that PHEV exists, right? So they can get a little bit more of that balance. And at the same time, you can get them a slightly more expensive car. You can get a little bit higher commission out of it. So, just leave that door open is what I'm saying here. Another part of this topic that I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, would be the long-term financial savings. And with some customers, when they go, well, the car is technically more expensive than its gas counterpart by about, let's say $2,000. Yeah, the reality is that it is. But this is where it comes back to those initial questions of how many miles you drive per day, what the average cost of fuel is, how much it currently costs you to fill this thing up. And if you run the math, you'll be able to show the customer that, hey, over time, if you keep this vehicle as a 3-5 years, or, most people will, when you ask them, hey, are you going to pay this thing off? They're like, oh yeah, I'll pay it off, as you're looking at their 2-year-old car that they're trying to trade in. But when you explain, hey, long-term financial savings, some customers may be concerned about that upfront cost. But when you break that down, you all of a sudden find that the fuel efficiency savings far outweighs that MSRP bump. Right? So with these, they require less maintenance compared to traditional gas cars. And the reason is less wear and tear, right? There's fewer repairs on this stuff over time. The cost of fuel drops, and in some makes, your oil changes or your services are further apart. So that can be helpful as well. So with this, a couple of good questions on this end. And are you looking to save money on fuel and maintenance costs over the next few years? And if the customer's in on that, then cool, right? Just roll with it. Now, one of the topics that you'll hear me mention all the time, because for many of us, it is one of those areas that's gross and icky, but it also is one of the powerhouses of providing yourself a greater financial future if you understand it. And that's the emotional side of it, right? Emotions are a huge driver of motivation. And when you know how to wield it and you know how to bump up somebody's emotions, you know how to get them to say yes to buying something that they actually love. And so with this, buying a car is often a crazy emotional decision. And, people see cars on the road, they look at them, they love them, and they go, I can drive that. They come on in. So they would just window shop their vehicles. So they come on in, you talk to them, and they're telling you all about these vehicles that they saw, and they're excited. It's an emotional decision. Or they're looking at you and they are super anxious because you're a sales consultant and they're thinking that you're a salesperson. So with that, we don't want to put the customer in a conversation where anxieties are going to be high. So as this goes, our job is to bolster up that customer's emotional positioning to the point where they are looking at this experience going, this is awesome. This person is great. They showed me a vehicle I love. They obviously care. They've been super nice and kind the whole time. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And you do this all the time as well. So listen to my last podcast on kindness and caring, and you'll kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about there. So, but with hybrid, owners feel the sense of accomplishment with these things, right? It makes them feel environmentally conscious, even if they go out and they buy something like my wife and I did, where we picked up that Tundra. And for first few days, I'm like, I own a hybrid. I feel environmentally conscious as I park it next to my diesel. And as I'm looking at that thing and I'm doing more research and more research and more research on it, I'm a research junkie if you haven't figured that out yet. I realized pretty quick, I ain't saving anything for fuel economy on that car compared to the regular gas V8 or V6 turbo. But the thing is that the electric motor helps us pull heavy things, and that's why we bought it. So with the emotional buying aspect of it, use language that emphasizes a positive impact on their life, right? Use language that introduces the idea of transformational change. So here's a question for you to help you out, right? You're making a positive impact, or rather statement, you're making a positive impact on the environment and helping lead the way toward a more sustainable future. And a customer's going to look at you and go, you get it, you understand it. And this is about getting that connection just set up correctly with that individual. If that connection isn't there, why would they bother going ahead and buying from you? So we got to make sure that that connection is going to be top notch. Another area that many people love coming in on hybrids with is when we take a look at the advanced technology, right? The advanced technology on these things can be crazy bonkers sometimes. Like you get inside of one from one manufacturer, and it's like a space shuttle, and then you get into another from another manufacturer, and you're like, this is insanely practical. This just makes sense. And then you find that balance in the middle, right? But many hybrids today are coming with cutting edge tech, modems inside, features like infotainment systems that automatically update themselves, driver assistance controls that make the car feel darn near clairvoyant, where it already knows what you want to do and stops when an accident might be about to arise. So customers appreciate all of this stuff, right? And maybe the fuel economy just isn't what they're looking for. They want that tech, and the tech is usually loaded into the cars that have the techie stuff under the hood. So as far as that goes, we got to take a step back every so often and go, so maybe that's actually not what you want. Maybe you want something that is going to provide you the ability to get in your car and just have a huge smile on your face with all that tech. For example, if it's myself, I am hugely techie. I enjoy tech to a major degree. Now, for any of you that do watch this on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. And also, if you're listening to it on the podcast, please subscribe as well. But if you are watching on YouTube, hopefully this video is less glitchy than the last one. Again, trying hard with new tech. But as far as that tech goes, the big screens inside usually come in hybrids. The different digital displays, even in the back of the car, coming in hybrids. So with all that tech comes this massive convenience factor for most people, right? That ability to go ahead and open your phone and go, hey, how many miles do I have left? Now, most gas cars will do this today with those connected apps. But with hybrids, you can even go ahead, and especially if it's a PHEV, look at your phone and say, okay, so how much longer do I need to wait in order to go ahead and have that vehicle charge up all the way? There's a lot of really interesting things that come out of just simply introducing the idea of hybrid. So with that, let's talk about convenience. That convenience piece allows your customer to not stop at every single filling pump that's out there, right? And also have that added convenience of less range anxiety, because you got a gas engine inside of there. Now, gas gives us the warm and fuzzies. As you all have probably picked up by now, I feel it is insanely impractical for us to continue to use these things. But the thing is, that's coming from somebody that doesn't drive an EV day to day, right? I read about them, I research them, all that fun stuff. So with the convenience side, right, these vehicles have a tendency, as you're driving, to automatically switch from gas to electric. And they have a tendency for you to command that. So if it's automatically switching, there's not much that you really need to do. If you command it, well, you push a button, and I want to drive on just electric. And so you get your electric range out of it, you hit another button, and it goes back to hybrid, right? Switching back and forth, giving you that awesome option. Summarize here real quick what we talked about so far. We got that fuel savings piece, right? Looking to power, looking to lower ongoing fuel costs. We have the environmental impact, waiting to contribute to sustainability and reduce emissions. We also have our long-term savings, And these are for the customers that are interested in saving fuel economy and also maintenance over time, leaving that money in their bank account. We also have that emotional connection, right? Seeking pride and making a positive impact on the world. And then also with the advanced tech, right? Attracting a modern, tech-friendly individual through the front door, but also having that piece to offer up to them. And then also the convenience side of it, enjoying that balance between reliability and eco-friendliness. So positioning these vehicles may be the perfect solution for the average person that's out there. At least when you look at it on paper, it makes a whole lot of sense, right? So we need to start to understand that customer's lifestyle by diving into their habits and also priorities that they have going on. So here are some needs assessment questions to help you out a little bit, right? So we have that, how much do you drive per week? Right? Do you primarily use the car for city driving or longer road trips? And then another one here, is fuel economy something that matters to you most? If it's not, then maybe we're on the wrong car. Maybe, with the gas-powered cars still have some absolutely incredible features, and usually the tech that's coming in the cockpit is also in the gas-powered car. At least a lot of manufacturers are starting to realize that maybe the people that just still drive gas cars want all the cool stuff. Yeah, they do. So go ahead and give it to them. And then with this, as always, you got to listen actively, right, to uncover those underlying motivations. Because some things may not be, for example, fuel efficiency. It might simply be, hey, you know what, I'm here because I'm driving that big old hog out there, and every time I hit the throttle, I see black smoke coming out the back, and I just want to reduce my carbon footprint. I'm tired of that. I feel crappy every time I go ahead and look at my rearview mirror. But hey, you know what? I go ahead and have somebody tailgating me, and I floor it. They have learned a lesson. But with that, I'm willing to give up that habit. So as far as that goes, right? Listen actively, because it may not be anything that we've even talked about that has driven them in the door. It might be something completely off the wall, right? Now, with this, we got to tailor that conversation as they tell us these items to meet their particular motivations, right? So once we understand their needs, we can position the hybrid as an ideal solution based on what matters most to them in their lives, right? So for the fuel-conscious buyer, highlight the significance of that hybrid savings. Show examples of things like fuel efficiency superior to the regular gas-powered cars, and that might be all that they need. Also, for eco-friendly buyers out there, emphasize things like, hey, environmental impact. It's a realistic thing, and if they feel that way as well, then express how it is also a concern of yours, but point out the hybrid's positive impact on the planet while also maintaining convenience of a gas-powered vehicle. So with this, occasionally though, you're going to come across somebody that is looking at you going, you know what, none of that matters. None a darn bit of it matters. I am a price conscious person, and I want to keep all this price stuff in check. So as far as the budget conscious buyer, discuss long-term savings with them. Because long-term savings, it's just good, responsible, I guess, mathematics to sit down and just work with them on. Because with this individual, it might be that, hey, I can barely afford to buy this thing. But is the fuel savings there so I can treat myself? If it is there, perfect, right? But educating the customer is still an area of a pain point for a lot of us because we don't quite understand them. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Get out and drive these things. Right? If you don't fully understand how that hybrid works, there's no way that we can take the time to educate the customer. So go out there and play with them. See what it's all about. Right? Most manufacturers have a really good page or good YouTube video or something that's going to break down that here's how our system works. Right? Go ahead, watch those videos. Explain that hybrid system. Explain how it switches from gas to electric, depending upon the driving conditions. The benefits of that seamless transition to make their car so much better. But address those comments, concerns as they start to pop up. Because the hybrid system, it's not easy. But to the average person, you can go, hey, listen, you know how you ride on gas all day long? Yeah, now you got to help her. Right? Imagine if somebody was back there just pushing your car, right? Making it go faster all the time. Well, if all of a sudden you had it in a gas engine, that person's going to work a little bit easier and your fuel efficiency is going to go up. So as far as that, address that stuff. But maintenance is a big thing. So with these, just the customer's going to ask you, hey, is it hard to maintain, right? Hybrids typically require less maintenance than traditional cars. They do have more parts, but they require less maintenance because those parts assist and take a lot of the stress away from the mechanical things that, have internal combustion, like the engine. So it's just kind of a cool added bonus. And another concern that we get a lot is, when it comes to hybrids, they're not very fast. Tell it to Lamborghini and Ferrari and Maserati. Hey, go on over to Bugatti and tell them that hybrids are slow. Well, they'll laugh at you, and if they don't punch you in the face, no, I'm kidding, they won't, but they will laugh at you. So with this, highlight those tech features that help them out, because your modern hybrid today is a lot faster. It performs a lot better than the vast majority of our old gas cars that are out there. Now, I know there's some people out there that are like, well, nothing drives better than my V8. Hey, I get it. You love your V8. That's awesome. I don't drive slow cars. So when it comes down to this, I'm either going full electric or I'm going to go to an electric motor inside of a hybrid that's going to give me serious 0 to 60 pop. That's also going to give me the benefits of your V8. Because when you look at your V8 that's inside of, let's say, Camaro and all those other Mustang and all those that are out there, when you look at those, their 0 to 60 times suck. Yeah, they do. I'll say it. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds is terrible. Electrics and hybrids are now getting in the ballpark of sub 3 seconds. That's pretty darn cool. And there's very few gas cars that are affordable out there under $90,000 that can go ahead and actually pull that off. So with this, highlight the fact that, hey, you know what? Yeah, you put your foot to the floor, you're going to get some serious snap, even if it is one of those SUV, hybrid, CUV things that are tooling around out there. Right? You got Tucson, you got Sportage, you got Escape. You have a lot of vehicles in that segment that are actually incredibly surprising because they're hybridized. So as far as that goes, highlight some of that stuff. But when we take a look at this, those tech features do pop up occasionally. Right? The car's crazy techy, so why don't we cover some of them? Don't be scared of the tech, right? Android Auto, Apple CarPlay are usually on every single one of these things. Things like lane keeping assist systems, adaptive cruise control systems, they're going to be on everything. Because again, that has the hybrid tech inside of it. Why not add more? So manufacturers are, here comes self-parking, here comes things like parking assist, here comes the ability to have the next generation of modern automobile. Don't be scared of the tech, right? No manufacturer out there right now is collecting your data that will be able to go ahead and drive you to jail. It's unreasonable, right? Manufacturers want to sell you the car, and if there are GPS things on there that your customer's like, oh my gosh, they're tracking me all over. Nobody's tracking you. Nobody's tracking you. Your app might be tracking you because they want to know where it is, so you can actually start the vehicle and find the vehicle. But as far as that, no manufacturer right now really does care where their vehicle is. So unless you're in some exotic or you just have stupid rules. So this now leads us into objections, because you're going to come across with a ton of objections. One of the biggest objections is the initial price concern, and this is where you need to know your math. So look at the vehicle, look at how big the gas tank is, figure out how much it's going to cost to fill that thing up. And you don't need to go actually fill the thing up, just look at the size of the gas tank, it says it right on the window sticker, and then look at the fuel efficiency number, and then just figure out how much of an improvement you have over the gas model. And you can use that as your benchmark for showing the customer the price change over time. So with that, counteracting the high price point is not that hard, right? We can discuss long-term savings costs. We can highlight potential tax credits, which are always awesome because some of the tax credits actually still do exist. So when you take a look at hybridized vehicles, I didn't hear about the Trump administration getting rid of the incentive on those. They may have, and I just haven't dug down that rabbit hole yet, but they definitely did on EVs. So go ahead, address it from that perspective. If the customer's like, hey, listen, I could get some cash out of this. Heck yeah, you can. So why not go ahead and wear that on your sleeves? But use real world examples to demonstrate how these hybrids, often offset the customer's ability to, keep money in their account, right? Because if the payment on the loan is going to be more expensive, if the customer is not driving very much, this actually may not help them. So know the balance here, right? Because sometimes, again, back to a very, very early episode, don't start on the highest car, right? Don't start on your fully loaded Mac. This is the everything vehicle. Sometimes it doesn't help. Figure out where that customer needs to be financially, realistically, right? And ask them things like, hey, what are you paying on that current vehicle that you're driving in right now? If they told you, well, I'm paying $800 a month, have you had any financial changes in your life? No, not so much, but I would like to save some money. Okay, cool. You find them another vehicle, $800 a month, and they look at you and go, I wanted to save money. Yeah, we just saved you 50% on fuel. How does that sound? Oh, okay. Oh, also your insurance tends to be a little bit better. Does it? Well, yeah. So, but an example of this, and with a hybrid, you don't have to worry about some things. One of those is going to be charging stations. One of those is going to be range limits, right? Your car will automatically make those switches from gas to electric. You can travel so much further than something like a gas car or even an EV without stopping. And you also don't have that needless downtime that most people think of sitting there charging your car and you're doing nothing. So debunking a lot of the myths that roll with this are going to help you out a lot, knowing what they are. So things like emphasizing how modern hybrids have great performance. They're not those sluggish little doorstops of old anymore. They provide some of the smoothest acceleration from electric motors and power that is, with a slight twitch at the throttle, your tires just want to spin off the thing, and they go in some circumstances. So highlight that, because when you look at the performance of some of the most popular models out there, right? Again, back to the RAV4 hybrid, back to the Sportage hybrid, back to the Tucson hybrid, the CRV, you get space inside, you get performance in a CUV where you didn't really expect to have any of that stuff in the first place. So use those examples, right, from the industry where hybrids perform exceptionally well, and do a little bit of research on your own online, right? There's a lot of great videos out there that of people reviewing these products to show you that, hey, you know what, when it comes to hybrid, this is where it's at. And, the heck with the gas model, that performance on that thing is absolutely terrible. Let's go ahead and switch over here. But when the customer is said and done and all that conversation has happened, right, we do still need to go ahead and lock this deal on down. And closing the deal is not too terribly hard with this, right? We've addressed the customer's motivators, right? We addressed educational pain points, and we've brought the customer up to speed on, hey, here's your objections, and hopefully I helped you answer some of those things. But we need to reassure that the customer is making the right decision for them. And if they're motivated enough by this point, they're going to go ahead and buy it. And as I stated many times over, you get somebody good and motivated, nothing is going to stop in their way when it comes to buying it. So get those talk tracks on down. So for example, here's one here. You made a smart decision by considering a hybrid. Not only will you save on fuel costs and reduce your carbon footprint, but you'll get a vehicle with cutting edge technology and a modern, more efficient driving experience. So you want to put this thing in your driveway? Heck yeah, I do. Good. So now, in addition to this, provide a test drive for that individual that is going to highlight some of these items where they can see, their fuel efficiency numbers popping up. They can hit that throttle. They can, spin the tires. I know I'm not supposed to encourage that, but when the thing with this is that people need to see that these things can perform, right? They're not slouches anymore. Manufacturers have put a lot behind these things, but when it does come to that final little push to just get that customer to go, yeah, I'm in. It may be just firing back whatever their value proposition may be. It may just be looking at them going, hey, you know what? When it comes down to fuel efficiency, you got that. When it comes down to environment, you got that. When it comes down to performance, you got that. And at the same time, you didn't want to plug the darn thing in, so you don't need to do that either. Well, I'm buying the PHEV. Guess what? You still don't need to plug it in. Really? Yeah, that's serious. Oh my gosh. And so with some people, when you mention that about PHEVs, they actually go, oh, okay, I didn't want to plug it in anyways. Well, why the heck did you pay so much money for the car? Anyways, can't make everybody, can't make logic make sense to everybody, right? But with this, budget-conscious buyers will be coming to you asking about those savings. So break that on down, know how to carry on that conversation. Also, the environmentally conscious, right? By driving this vehicle, this hybrid, right? You're contributing to a greener future. And with that the budget conscious person, with the savings on the fuel efficiency and the maintenance costs, this hybrid will pay itself off over time. And that is actually, in fact, true. If you go ahead and you run it out there. Now, the math might be 50 years out as far as the fuel efficiency goes, but you would be blown away by how much money some people actually are unloading into their vehicle. And then lastly here, with tipping the customer over to get them to sign, if it's a tech lover, this vehicle is not just fuel efficient, right? It's packed with the latest and greatest tech to enhance your driving experience and make you be proud every single time you get in their car. So take that time, again, listen to them. Figure out who they are, because each one of these steps that you take, and the more time that you take, the slower that you do it, the more you care about this individual, the more you genuinely express the fact that I am in this game for you, the higher the likeliness is that that customer is going to want to buy that car from you, right? Not just buy that car. They want to buy it from you. And that is the point of what we're getting at here with AutoKnerd, is adding that human back into the sales process. So after the sales, though, the engagement and follow-up, long-term rapport with these individuals is actually pretty easy to make. Now, as I mentioned many times, the point of follow-up in the first call is not to ask them for a vehicle, but that post-sale engagement is absolutely critical to get that long-term loyalty and retention. Keep in mind, we want them to pick the phone up when we call. We don't want them to go ahead and put us on the block list simply because we're a car salesperson in their eyes. We need to start representing ourselves during follow-up as a helpful long-term tool. So send follow-up messages, emails to the customer, check in with them for satisfaction every so often. But when that new tech starts to roll down the pipe, if your manufacturer is creating videos explaining that technology, just start sending it over to them. I always encourage sales consultants, put together a newsletter, monthly newsletter, just have it go out to everybody. Maybe take 3 or 4 different variants. You got one for gas people, you got one for EV, hybrid, and maybe PHEV in there as well. But when you hear the new stuff, send it out. Right? Get the customer understanding what these are, because they want to be informed, right? Offer up that information in how to maximize their hybrid's fuel efficiency if you start to come across articles on things like hypermiling. I mean, seriously, like back in the 90s, people used to take Honda Accords, 6-cylinder Accords, and get like 80, 90 miles of the gallon out of them. There is a way to pull off higher fuel efficiency. And imagine if these people that won the Guinness Book of World Record in a Honda Accord back in the day had a hybrid. The whole landscape would have been different. But with this, referral opportunities with these individuals only come out of the fact that the relationship is being built. So encourage those customers, obviously, to refer their friends and family to your dealership. But do that after you're confident that that individual is a friend of yours, that they're willing to pick up the phone down the pipe here, that they're willing to go ahead and say, yeah, you know what, I will send anybody to you because we have talked, we have a relationship. And so spend that time and build that. It's going to be worth everything, especially if you're planning to make a career out of this. But ultimately, when all is said and done, show that appreciation. If you are not showing appreciation for the customer when they come in through the front door, you're kind of letting yourself down for a couple of reasons. First off, again, back to the thing that I always say, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. If they don't know, like, and trust you, they ain't coming back in. If you don't appreciate that person, that human that is sitting in front of you, well, they're going to get up and walk. And think about yourself. If you're out shopping and you don't feel appreciated, right? Either A, you're going to walk in, you're going to buy what you need, no memory has been made. Or if you feel appreciated, all of a sudden you go back there again and again and again. So let them know you value them, their decision to either go green, save money, get the next gen tech, whatever it might be. Let them know that they are appreciated. Aside from that, gang, that has been your podcast for today. Please hit that follow button. I'm going to come on with another one next Thursday on another pressing topic that, we all need to stay on top of. So I'm going to do a few of these just so we all understand the changing landscape of what's going on in the industry right now. So again, today we're switching our focus from EV over to hybrid, because that is where people are going to be coming in droves. But really show that appreciation, because that's what is going to keep them coming on back. So everybody, please mash that subscribe button, hit that follow button. If you are listening to me on a podcast, I'm going to come out with some stuff next week that, again, is talking about the future changes in the landscape. So aside from that, I hope you all have a great one out there. Show the love to the customer and get them on in and add that human back into your process, because that is what the customer wants to deal with. Have a great one, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.